Welcome to my show. I am with a guest here. Her name is Silvia Aninye. Silvia Aninye, how are you, ma?
I'm doing fine.
All right, ma. We know you are an educator. You are also a legal nurse consultant under the Defense Medical Examination. Can you walk us through your journey? Why you choose that path, ma?
I chose that path because I'm a nurse, so I'm an advocate for patients, and I get to advocate in most of my cases. I work with lawyers and I work with doctors, and I usually advocate for the patients during the exams that we take. With the attorneys. We usually work with them in regards to personal injury claims or med malpractice claims.
All right, ma. Ma, can you explain to us what a defense medical examination is? And can you also explain to us what the purpose is, ma?
Yes, the defense medical examination is an examination that is done by a doctor, in different settings or different specialties. When a personal injury lawsuit is filed, the insurance company orders the patients to do a defense medical exam where they check to see what the injuries are or if there were any injuries, what happens to be the situation right now. So, what they usually do is after the examination and they review all the medical records, they now submit to the insurance company some kind of proposal as to what they think that particular patient needs in terms of compensation. And the compensation could be monetary and it also could be future medical care.
All right, ma. So I want to ask, who are the ones that select this medical defense examination? These physicians, who are the ones that select the physicians conducting the defense medical examination, and how are they chosen, ma?
The doctors are chosen by the insurance companies. And the patients that go to those exams, it's usually a mandatory exam. They don't have a choice. If they want their lawsuit to go forward, they have to subject themselves to this examination from the doctors that are chosen by the insurance companies. And the reason why they send us to those is in order to balance the equation, to balance the situation to where everything does not just get decided based on what the doctors say or what the insurance companies say. So usually they have us there because usually before there's an examination from the courthouse, there are usually criteria that is given by the courthouse as to how those examinations are supposed to take place and what the doctors are allowed to ask, what the doctors are not allowed to ask. And we, the nurses that go to those examinations, are there to enforce the examination and also to enforce whatever was, stipulated by the courts in those documents. Also to protect the clients, what we do is also audio record the exam. Now audio recording, depending on the state you are in, the United States, some states allow audio recording, some don't, but the state I live in, California, allows that. So that kind of like helps level the playing field a little bit for the clients in terms of a balancing act between the client and the insurance companies.
All right, ma. As a patient, what do you think a patient should expect during the examination, ma?
Usually a patient expects it's an examination from a doctor. There's no difference to the normal examination that you would do if you go to see a doctor in any specialty. it wouldn't matter what you know there's I don't know how to explain it. There's nothing different. You understand? There's nothing different. It's the same thing as when you go to see a regular doctor. The only difference is there are certain questions that the doctors might ask that the doctor is not allowed to ask. Some of those questions could be the past medical history of the patient, and some of it could be the employment history of the patient or past injuries or past chronic conditions that the doctor is not allowed to talk about. Now, even though the doctor is not allowed to talk about it, the doctor has that information in the medical records of the patient. So usually what we do is when we say, sorry, doctor, we can't talk about this particular situation, we just refer the doctor to the medical records and tell him that information that you're asking, the patient doesn't need to answer that right here because it's already in the medical records, and you're supposed to review the medical records before, the patient comes for the exam. So that's pretty much, the only difference. But the physical exam that the doctors does is the same exam that you would do in every specialty, medical specialty that there is out there. It could be internal medicine defense medical exam. It could be orthopedic. It could be neurosurgical, neurology, neuropsychiatry. It all depends on, which type of exam was ordered.
All right, Ma, what do you think is the legal issue that arise during the defense medical examination, Ma?
Usually the only issues that usually arises, sometimes the doctors ask questions they're not supposed to ask. And that's where we, the nurse observers or the defense nurse observers, come in. We decide and tell the doctor, oh, I'm so sorry, sir, but we're not going to allow you to ask questions regarding liability in the lawsuit. We don't allow questions regarding liability in the lawsuit. And we don't allow questions about any chronic conditions the client might have. In terms of an example of that is if the client has heart conditions or they have diabetes, which is very prevalent, in the older population. They're not allowed to ask questions about that. They're also not allowed to ask questions about any other issues like asthma, thyroid disease, anything that could be a chronic condition. The reason why we do that is because that information is in the medical records, and the doctor is actually paid to do this exam and go through the medical records. But a lot of them, because they want to do as many exams as possible, they try to get that information from the client so they don't have to go to the medical records. And then they can just write the report based on what the client said. And the reason we don't allow the client to talk about it is usually when these lawsuits get to the point where they actually um, where they actually see this doctor, at that point, usually it's already 3 or 4 years after when the incident actually happened. So a lot of patients forget, the specifics about these incidents. So we'd always tell the doctor to go to the medical records to get the most accurate information that they need, because sometimes the patients forget, certain treatments, the patient forgets certain things that they did because it's been 3, 4 years, sometimes 5 years.
All right, Ma. So, like, how should patients prepare for the defense medical examination? Is there any documentation needed or something like that needed, Ma?
No, there's no documentation. We, the nurses, prepare them. We call them a day or two before the examination, and we discuss with the client everything that their attorney has decided that we should not address. And we also discuss the personality of the doctor, how the doctor approaches the examination, and also we go over whatever treatments, they may have received within that 3 4 year uh, period, and just basically prepare the client for the atmosphere of the examination. So that way, when they actually come into the examination, we are there with the client, on the day of the examination, and we're in the exam and we take notes and we audio tape as well. So the reason we prep them ahead of time is a lot of patients know that these doctors are the doctors from the insurance company. So what we try to do is reduce their anxiety level, because people get really nervous and really anxious about the exam. So our job is to get them to relax a little bit, and that's why we let them know what happens during the exam, so they're not as anxious when the exam actually takes place.
All right, ma, as one thing, what advice can you give to someone who is trying to undergo defense medical examination?
There's no specific advice, that you need to give. Every situation is different, every patient is different. It depends on the advice you would give, depends on the situation of the patient. It depends on the situation, medical condition of the patient, the situation the patient is in, any of the legal ramifications that the patient has to pay attention to. It's different for every patient. There's no script or no way, no written record on how to deal with each exam. Each exam is different, each patient is different, the lawsuit is different. So you kind of have to assess those cases on a case by case basis.
All right, ma. So, what type of um um what type of process do you recommend? What type of process do you recommend? Um, what perspective do you think, like, what area do you think the defense medical examination needs improvement? What area do you think, ma?
All areas need improvement, but the improvement is not something that is in the hands of the nurses. The lawyers are the ones who make sure there are improvements. The way the improvements come about is usually based on whatever laws are out there that govern defense medical exam. The only way the exams can be improved is when the laws change, and that is in the hands of the lawyers, not the nurses. The lawyers are the ones that go, to the government and go to the legislative and parliamentary bodies and try to change the regulations. And we, the nurses, simply just follow the regulations. Now, I do have to make it clear that the 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 situation and the topic that I'm addressing here happens in the United States. The laws governing these kind of exams are different, for example, in Europe, and I think in Africa it's completely different, like how these things are handled. The reason why I say that is because I am half Nigerian. My father is Nigerian and my mother is German. And I went to school in Nigeria. So I know exactly what the healthcare system says, what the healthcare system in Nigeria, there's no healthcare system. You kind of like, it's either you have the money to pay for your healthcare or there's nothing. you don't get health care. And that's not the case in Europe, and that's not the case in the United States. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. So people are not thinking that, what we are discussing here is something that can take place in Nigeria.
All right, ma. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that one. I'm so glad. You're part
Yes,
of my blood.
definitely. I'm half Nigerian. My dad is Igbo and my mom is German.
Wow, wow, wow. That was very impressive. I'm so glad to hear that, man. I'm so happy. Well, lastly, what role do you see the defense medical examination? What role do you see them play in the future, man?
They play a very good role. They can be improved on, and they play a very good role in the future. All we can do is just keep improving our advocacy program, how we advocate for the patients. That's why I went into this field, because I wanted to advocate for patients, because a lot of patients, first of all, due to education or due to lack of exposure, a lot of patients don't know what their rights are, in what their rights are in a lawsuit, what their rights are during an examination. And that's what we're there for. We're there to assist them and educate them on anything that they need to be able to maneuver that exam properly and safely, and are not backed into a corner, or just ask them questions about things that the insurance company wants to know.
All right, so now I will also ask if you see, part of the dialect of the Igbo, if you still know any language, like you can speak anyone out of the Igbo area, man.
Oh yes, Anamasibo. Anamasibo, from I speak Igbo very well.
Okay, okay, man. All right, man. Lastly, if there is anything you have loved to bring back from the ancestors, from the past, what do you think that thing would be, man?
Huh. Ancestors from the past. I have to think about that one. I would think the culture. I would think our culture, the morals, the morals of the ancestors, things like that.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your time. And again, I would love to be your friend. I would love to be a companion. I'm so happy to hear from you, man. I'm so happy for your time, for your effort, and for every opportunity you give to me. I want to say thank you very much, man.
Yes, what show are you on? Because you didn't mention what show.
The
What
School of
show, and what kind of podcast that you do?
the School of Heritage, man. So that's where people learn.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great.
All right,
That's
man.
great. And your School of Heritage, where is that located?
It's a podcast.
No, 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 I know, but the no, the podcast is called School of Heritage.
Yes, man.
Oh, okay, no problem. Who are your like, who are the audience? That's what I wanted to.
My audience are here and they're also in the United States.
Okay, that's
All right,
great.
man. All right, man. Thank you so much, man. Have a wonderful day, man.
You too. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna talk. Bye bye.
Bye bye.